So hey guys, it's me Rebecca. So this will be the start of another weekly vlog, and so far today I've just done some cleaning and wanna to go for a nice morning walk. Where a bit chaotic. My neighbor happened to open his door when I was walking by, and his dog went out, and it was on a leash, and it chased me for 5 seconds. I don't know, it just took me. So yeah. But if you saw my last vlog, you would have seen that I was reading The Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien. I did say in my last vlog, I'm gonna say this again. My addition is really if Lord of the Rings was one very long book, this split, because this book is, I think, about 220-ish pages roughly, and it starts on page 403, and I'm on page 698. And I don't know, it definitely continues on in that adventure. Like, this feels like the middle part of a book where Yoda's on an adventure. And we see how, with this one, how Gollum, he ends up with Sam and Frodo, and we really see how being in that cave for so long has affected him, how Gollum is sensitive to light, like he moves when the sun and moon are not present, and he refuses to eat any of their food as it comes from Alf's country. He just watches them eat food. Sam is worried that if both he and Frodo are asleep, Gollum might take a nibble of them, which doesn't seem to be the case. Like, it seems like he stays with them for a bit and then goes off, does his own thing, and comes back, and he seems, whatever he's up to, seems satisfied. Like, he's not in the mood to be a bit of a cannibal. Yeah, and Sam heard about the fact they're running out of food and wonders how much they need for this job. Frodo worries that if they do this job, what will come after? Will they survive? Frodo doesn't seem to be the most optimistic that they will survive with what they've been tasked to do, and their fears continue to be kind of heightened by Gollum, as the dark land where Mordor is, where Sauron is, it won't leave the dead alone as well. It will swallow them up. And one thing I like is seeing how wearing this ring and having to deal with it has this effect on Frodo, and he just seems so weary and running. It just seems like he feels like he has to carry this weight on his shoulders. And another thing that is how he anyway has to do this task alone, wanted to do this task alone, like he was ready to set off on his own when someone's like, I'm going with you. And something I like is Sam overhearing Gollum debating with himself, and I feel like the whole, Gollum is referencing himself, or as Gollum, but then he's also being referenced as Smeagol. And it's almost like he has this split personality. I think that seems really interesting. Like, he was just debating with himself if he should be loyal to Frodo, who's nice and whatnot, but then the other side is like, no, you should betray him. Bilbo Baggins stole your precious from you, and Frodo is Bilbo's heir, essentially, making Frodo still a Baggins even if they don't share that surname. And that's quite interesting. It was an interesting scene reading, because this felt like the two sides of Gollum trying to figure stuff out, and it does seem like Gollum decides he'll remain Frodo. and remain loyal to Frodo, my word. And yeah, and Frodo seems to have some faith in Gollum, believing that Gollum does know a way to murder, and even if he seems convinced that Aragorn lied to them and that the precious belongs to Gollum, he'll still do what is right. And we see Sam's devotion to Frodo, how he'll do anything to keep him safe and ensure he's protected, how he watches Frodo sleep and is like talking about like when he's asleep all of the fine lines in his face don't come out, like he seems relaxed in when he's asleep. And Sam does say he loves Frodo and he loves his master, and it's like this trust he has in him to not lead him astray. Like he just trusts him to know what he's doing and to remain faithful to him. I'm trying to find that, and yeah, it's like he loves Frodo. Like he'll do anything to protect his master. Like he says, it seems like he's very old friend, very close friends, when he relies on to treat him kindly. And I do like their friendship and how loyal Sam is to him, how he'll follow him even if it's a dangerous circumstances. And Sam, he starts a fire to cook rabbits that Gollum caught, and there's an interaction where Gollum's like, why the hell are you cooking rabbits? They're the most tasty when you eat them once. Sam's like, no thank you, I'm good. But Sam, he doesn't watch the smoke and leads these men to them and to find them. And their leader is a man named Faramir, and he is the brother of Boromir. He takes Sam and Frodo with him to his city, leading them away from Mordor to answer questions. Faramir, it seems to be treating them well, and when eventually Gollum ends up with them, it's like, Frodo and Sam seems to trust him. I'm gonna trust him, but I'm still wary of him. And despite some reluctancy on Frodo's part to talk about what they need to do and what they need to destroy, Faramir seems to figure out the treasure that's on Frodo, and he does learn that it did corrupt his brother a bit and cause Boromir and Frodo to have a bit of a falling out and not the best separation. But no. Right. Faramir is the one who tells him that Boromir is dead, as the funeral boat that was sent off for him at the beginning of this book does end up at the river in the city where Boromir lived. How we got there is a bit weird because it wouldn't have made sense with the landscape, it seems like. And he allows Sam and Frodo to go with Gollum to Mordor. He tells them not to go east at all, and they have to. And Frodo and Sam follow him down a path, and Frodo does seem to start to think more of the after, if there is an after for them, and we just see them on their adventure. Something I liked in this is. Did I not mark it? Was Sam was saying that he hopes this ends up in an adventure that he used to be told, and Sam says on page 696 of my edition, I used to think that they were things the wonderful folk used to call them. I used to think that they were things the wonderful folk of the stories went out and looked for because they wanted them, because they were exciting and life was a bit dull. Kind of sport, as you might say, but that's not a way with it with the tales that really mattered or the ones that stay in the mind. Folk seem to have been just landed in them. Usually their paths were laid that way, as you put it, but I expect their paths were, sorry, I expect they had lots of choice, like us, of turning back, only they didn't. And if they had, we shouldn't know, because they had been forgotten. We hear about those as deaths went on, and not all to a good end, mind you. At least not to what folk inside a story and not outside it call a good end. And it's like they are hoping, or not hoping, but thinking that maybe theirs will be a story people tell to their children, or their children want to hear, and will allow them to bond with the children. And that entire paragraph was something I really liked, because you hear about these incredible adventures people go on, but often it seems like they didn't have a choice, like they didn't choose to go on this adventure. It's not like they were like, I'm bored, I want to go on an adventure. No, it seems like circumstances led them to go on this adventure, and that's something I like. And I'm so sorry if you couldn't hear what I was reading, just because the way I was holding my camera, my hand was over the mic per usual, so. But yeah, so far I'm enjoying it, and yeah. And I think that's over now. So it's the next day, and I've just done some work and whatnot, and I did do quite a bit of reading today and yesterday, and yesterday I did finish The Two Towers, and I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, and then I decided to find them. I don't know. But we see how Gollum backstabs Frodo and Sam and leads them to this web of this spider creature who chases Frodo while Gollum deals with Sam. Sam stabs Gollum, who flees, and when he catches up to his master and the creature, he sees Frodo lying on the ground with the creature over him. And apparently this creature is it's supposed to hard to harm her. She doesn't have a weak spot on her that Sam can stab or whatever. But yeah, he's able to harm her, and she flees. And he goes to Frodo and sees he's unconscious, and he thinks Frodo is dead. And that whole scene was a bit heartbreaking, because Sam does care a lot about Frodo, and he decides that to honor his master, he's gonna complete his task. And so he takes the ring from Frodo to destroy it. But when he's on his way to destroy it, he overhears that this creature, she never kills her victims for food. She plays with it a bit, and then she likes her food alive. And Sam realizes Frodo's alive, actually. And he goes back to him, but it's too late in a sense. Orcs found Frodo. They've taken him to the castle where he'll be put in his cell before he, the Dark Lord Sauron, goes to speak to him. And yeah, the book ends with Sam, with the gate closing behind Sam. And this morning I did start The Return of the Kings. I just decided just to jump straight into this one. And with this one, the story begins on page 731, and yeah, so I started there, and now I'm on page 800. Yeah, with this one, we go back to Pippin and Gandalf, who are still traveling to Gondor, where Boromir is from. They get an audience with the king, who is Boromir's father, who wants to hear Pippin's story after he swears Pippin into service, and Pippin tells his story. And Pippin explores the city afterwards while Gandalf goes on the business, and he sees how the city's preparing for war, by sending, I guess, the vulnerable away, the elders, the children, the women, sending them away, and the city, it's starting to look deserted, and he sees a neighboring city that was once full of life, but it's now completely deserted. And we go back to Aragorn, Gamil, Legos, and Merry, and how they will continue on. Aragorn announces that Merry will stay with Theoden, and while he and others go down this thing that's called the Paths of the Dead, which apparently is this path that can take you under the mountain, but no one has ever been seen again when they go down this path. And Aragorn decided to do this after looking into the sphere, which we saw how it affected Pippin, and Aragorn's like, yeah, no, I'm stronger. Barely. Weird. But yeah, he saw Sauron, I think, who saw him. He is going to fight him. And I have to feel sorry for Merry, because he just feels like he's a burden to everyone. Like, because of his size, because he doesn't really have army to wear, so yeah, he just feels like he's weighing other people down, and as well, he's just missing his best friend a lot. I felt pity for him. And yeah, while Aragorn and others go, they end up at Theoden's castle, where his daughter tries to plead with Aragorn to not go, and he refuses. She then tries to plead for him to allow her to go, which, as she is essentially just doing a job of a woman, even though she's in a position of power. She's on the throne temporary, but she's still like taking care of the household, essentially taking care of the servants, and while the men go off to fight. It's just, yeah. And what has happened with my phone? I have no idea. And he refuses that as well. And yeah, they go down, the whip leaves, and they go down the paths. Gilmil seems hesitant. It's because it is quite dark, so yeah, but the dead do follow them, and that's really the end for them for now. And Theoden, he returns to the castle, but mostly first creatures appeared flying over the kingdom, and the sun is no longer in the sky or really shining. It seems like darkness is taking over Middle-earth, which is something I am liking. Like, it's showing like the dark land, it's spreading its influence. Sauron is getting more and more powerful. Like, they are limited on the amount of time. And he tries to leave Merry again, even going as far as calling him a burden, which really, that's rude. And as well, he doesn't have proper armory to go, and he goes anyway when the rider takes him with him on his horse. And yeah. And Ben has been given his duties as essentially servant to the King of Mordor and Faramir. He comes back to tell them where Frodo and Sam are, and Gandalf doesn't seem happy about this, nor does the king with Faramir for not returning without the treasure, saying he shouldn't have brought it to him. And Gandalf tries to tell him that the ring would have corrupted his son and led him to his death, but the king doesn't believe him, as Faramir was the favorite son. Gandalf thinks the king would have been overtaken by the ring as his son was, but I don't know, the king just seems adamant that his son was perfect and that Faramir is just this disappointment, so Gandalf just tried to reassure Faramir that his father does love him, but yeah, family is complicated. Yeah, so far I'm just finding this fine. I'm definitely curious on seeing this adventure continue, and yeah, so far it's just fine. Again, I'm just feeling like I'm reading the middle of a very long book, so yeah, there's that. But yeah, I think that's all for now, so I'll see you when I see. So it's the next day, and so far I've just done some cleaning, some laundry, and I did have to quickly go to the store just to pick up some stuff to last till the weekend. And I did take a nap, and I don't know if it's because I was laying here on this couch with the sun white. That means, I just felt out of it. So sorry if this update will be a bit incoherent, but yeah, but I did do some reading and of The Return of the Kings, and I'm on book 6, and in my edition, page 876. And I definitely admit, I did like the battle, because the enemy Sauron has infiltrated the city walls and attacked. Faramir was injured, and we see how this affects the king. It's beside his remaining son's sickbed as Lucan defeated when previously he was almost disappointed in his son for not returning with the ring and whatnot. And we see a battle taking place in the city and how the enemy has essentially forced them to stay inside the city walls, block off the city walls, even though they've destroyed the gate to the city. And we see one has come to fight in the city, and it seems they're fighting against Gandalf, or is fighting with the men. And Theoden, he learns about the siege of on a city and how the enemy is taking those who were outside the city and killing those still alive. And this was something that was a bit gruesome. The enemy was cutting off their heads and flung them over the city walls, and we see when they land, they still have a look of terror on their face. And it's like their loved ones have to see their decapitated head, and I'm like, oh my word, that's something. And Theoden and others, they go into the city. Someone shoots at a horse, and a horse falls on top of him. And yeah, some fighting, and he does die. And I did like this. We learned the true identity of the warrior who took Mary with them, a person named Durham, and it was the daughter Iowan. I'm reading this physically, so sorry if I butchered that pronunciation, but it was actually her in disguise, and I like that because she wanted to be in on action and help people, and this was thrown away. And yeah, she does get seriously injured, and we see how the king of the city is losing hope that he and his son will survive, and he has servants take the body and take him to the grave of the family. It's one of the big chamber things that sometimes in graveyards, I'm imagining. Gandalf tries to talk him out of it, but the king thinks Gandalf is another evil wizard, and he kills himself by setting himself on fire. He had built this pier to burn the body of his son. They're able to get the son out of there. He was quite feverish, but he was alive. And Gandalf says this man was set by Sauron, who knew the king looked into the stone and tricked him. The king did disappear. We learn a novel when he and his son was injured, and their family was a light in a tower before he went back to his son. So yeah, there's that. And Aragorn, Gilmy, and the ghost, they come out of the paths of the dead and join in on the fighting. I would have liked to have seen their journey through the paths of the dead, because everyone was making a big deal out of it, saying how no one is ever seen again when they are go through the paths of the dead. And there goes and Gimme later say they cannot describe their journey just because it frightened them so much, and if it wasn't for their love and friendship of Aragorn, they wouldn't have gone down. But I mean, they do talks about some of the adventure they went on to get to the city. Yeah. And while Faramir is in the House of the Healing alongside other characters like Ewan and Mary, Aragorn is able to heal them, and I like Aragorn. He's not only able to heal them of their physical wounds, but help them heal the, mental wounds of experiencing what they experience in losing those, because Mary, he did witness Theoden's death, and he thinks he might never be able to smoke again because Theoden's last words to him was that he regretted they were never able to talk about her lore and whatnot. And I mean, she did lose her father, and that's a massive blow, but she still has her brother, and it's affecting her because it's affecting her desire to wake up again. And we see how Aragorn helps them, I guess, embrace that pain and help them continue on. You know, just like how does the focus on the physical wounds of battle, but also the mental wounds of watching those die, be killed around you. I don't know, like that. And yeah, afterwards, Aragorn, he does call a meeting with the other captains. Says the battle might be done, but the war isn't over, and they must find a way to strategically weaken Sauron and ensure his eye remains on them and not on Frodo. And we're supposed to bear the ring. And they set off once more, and a messenger of Sauron finds them and gives them evidence that they have Frodo, and some crushing their hopes a bit, and hoping that, and it seems that is the case, and gives them terms about giving Sauron land and being essentially his servant, and he'll be the ruler of all. And Gandalf, he rejects these terms, and Sauron's army attacks them, and book 5 ends with, it seems like Pippin being seriously injured or being healed, so yeah, I'm curious about that, and I'm also curious to see what's going on with Sam and Frodo, and if Pippin will live or not, because I do really enjoy the friendship between Merry and Pippin. Like, Merry seems to not feel so alone when he has Pippin around, and he does care a lot about Pippin. I mean, he seems like he's his best friend, so I do like that, and I'm very curious about that. And seeing if how the idea that Frodo and Sam might be in enemies' hands, how that will affect the army and affect this, not the mission, but affect like the hopes people have. So yeah, I think that's all for now. So I'll see you when I see you. So it's the next day, and so far I've just done some cleaning and whatnot, and I did go for a bit of a walk to my neighborhood this morning before it got too hot, and already it was a bit hot, a bit dry, so that was fun. And I did do quite a bit of reading of the Return of the Kings. I was about to say the Two Towers, but no, and I'm on page 946, and I'm definitely enjoying this. And we are now in book 6, and with this one we see Sam waking up at the gate and finding a way to get into the tower. He finds there's some tension amongst the orcs, with them fighting and killing each other. It seems like it has something to do with Frodo and what to do with him, and he goes to find Frodo and finds him when he sings his song, and Frodo starts singing back and whatnot, and yeah, he's able to get into his cell when another orc comes and opens the door, and Sam it seems kills the orc and rescues Frodo, who's been stripped of everything and questioned already. And this seems to have occurred like during the battle in the previous book, in book 5 I should say. And after getting supplies, they escape, and Frodo's wearing the ring again, and again he feels this burden of it and weariness that comes with it, and he and Sam travel to destroy the ring. They travel, and you know, it's getting a difficult journey with the land being rocky and them having to constantly hide from the orcs. At one point they are even caught, and the orcs, or the leader of the orcs, is so flipping oblivious and has them joining on the army to march and north when really they need to go south, and they're able to get out of that one, but that was just how. And we also see how the effect the ring has on Frodo is getting worse. It's like tormenting his mind, being a burden on his body, and we also see how with Sam how he's losing hope that they'll survive with them running out of food and water, and he thinks they'll toss the ring into the mountain of doom and die there and then. So yeah, they're not being the most optimistic pair as well. We don't see what Frodo's thinking, and we see like all the ring is starting to have this full control over him, causing Frodo not wanting to part with it. And you also see how Sam, he's trying to help Frodo in any way he can, and at one point he even suggests that he'll wear the ring a bit, and that's refused, and they have to lighten their, I guess, pack. I'm supposed to say burden, but but they have to lighten their pack to make the journey a bit easier. And Sam, he's heartbroken because he will have to borrow his beloved cooking supplies, like his pots, and missing and him having to throw everything he loves away with his cooking. I don't know, it is heartbreaking, but it was also quite amusing. And again, you see Sam wanting to help Frodo and the kind and the devotion of everything. At one point, Sam even carries Frodo, and Frodo is so weak. And I don't know, their devotion Sam has is just nice to see from. And when I do get to the mountain, they run into Gollum, who tries to take the ring, and Frodo isn't able to part with the ring to destroy it. He says, "The ring is mine," and we see how the ring has this full control over him, making him blind to what the mission is, and making it impossible for him to part with it. I think he's fought off the influence of the ring so much that he's just exhausted, and it's taken advantage of that and taken over his mind. And there's a bit of a fight, and Gollum does get his hands on it, and it seems the way it's described that both he and the ring fall into the fire, destroying them both. It seems like I had to reread that section just to be sure. Yeah, the mission is complete, and it seems the effects of Sauron's influence is over. The effects of it is felt immediately with his army running away and the Tower of Thieves, I think it was, falling apart. His tower is over. Randolph, it seems like, is able to feel it immediately, and he sends Gar, I'm sorry if I butchered that, I did not look at the pronunciation for that name, which is essentially an ego, to rescue them from the mountain. And they're rescued and taken to it seems like, to heal and rest and figure out what's next with the others. And that's it for them for now. And then we do jump to the other kingdom, where Iwan and Faramir are still healing. And Iwan, she's being restless, as she doesn't know what is going on in the war. She doesn't know where her brother is. She hates the fact she has to heal, and she keeps wanting the healer to let her go and sleep. They were just like, "You haven't rested for 7 days. You were supposed to, and I'm not gonna let you leave." And she just wants to be out there and know what's going on. And we see how she and Faramir they're getting quite close with their walks in the garden, and Faramir is definitely attracted to her. There is, I just thought that was very cute, the whole thing between them. And It seems like right now he'll be stored, and well, Argon being being the king. So yeah, so far it seems that way, and yeah, I definitely with this part liked seeing, I guess, how much Sam is devoted to helping Frodo, and in a way he kind of helping his friend. And yeah, I was about to say with Merry and Pippin, because at the end of Book 5, Pippin falls unconscious. He's not dead, but he and Merry, I think, they remain knights or servants of some sort. So I don't know if they'll be going back to the Shire with their new positions, but I don't know, maybe. And I definitely enjoyed the budding moments, I would say, between Faramir and Arwen. I'm curious to see if that goes somewhere by the end of this. And yeah, and the main story, I'm not sure if I will read the appendix or if I'll just like look up some stuff, because yeah, I will think about it, but it seems like I only have about 60 pages left, so I probably will finish this tomorrow. But yeah, that's all for now. So it's the next day, and I don't know why my hair looks so flat, if it does, or I don't know what's going on with this bird nest, but yeah. But I have so far just done some cleaning, some laundry, just some whatnot, and I know I've probably said a few times in this vlog I've had to do some laundry. We had some issues with our dryer last week, so I wasn't really able to do laundry, and that's been dealt with. But yeah, I've just been playing catch up, which I think I have, thank God. But yeah, and I did finish The Return of the Kings by J.R.R. Tolkien, and I definitely enjoyed the very last bit a lot. And overall, I did give it 4 stars. You see how things are starting to wrap up with the Fellowship, how Aragorn is crowned king, and he does marry. Faramir asks Iwan her hand in marriage, and she accepts it and whatnot. And we see the Fellowship parting with people going home. And before the hobbits head back to the Shire, they go to visit Bilbo to tell their story through. He probably won't write it, as he keeps falling asleep when they try and tell him their story, and as well he's gotten more into poetry recently. And high likely he will die soon. He doesn't think he will have much to live with the wing no longer being there and it finally being destroyed, so I guess his duty is done. And when they continue their journey to the Shire, Frodo feels this odd pain in his shoulder and from an earlier injury, wondering about how they've changed and they're no longer the same hobbits they were when they started their journey. And I did like that, because they're all changed. They went through this massive experience and they didn't come out of unchanged, and I do like it, because I don't know, characters change because of what they went through. With what they went through, you cannot be the same people that you were before everything you've experienced, especially with something like that. And as they're getting closer to the Shire, they can tell something's off. They're in this neighboring area with this folk called Bree, and they've experienced some trouble with their people being killed and leaving them afraid, and they'll close the doors when it starts to get dark and whatnot, and they stay for a while and then they continue on, and they see there's been a gate built and that they are no longer allowed entry at night. And they are allowed entry as the other hobbits do recognize them, and they see the rules that have been set against the hobbits. The hobbits have, I don't know, the way that this was described, it's almost like the hobbits were slaves, but by people who came in and took over their land by colonizers. as they have to do labor, and then they don't know what happens to the product. Like the product's just sent away. And as well, there's a whole massive list of rules they have to follow, and what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. For example, they're no longer allowed to drink alcohol. And the only people who are allowed to drink alcohol are the men who are with this new chief, a chief who's called Sharky, but they just call the chief. And Frodo and the others learned that the new chief took the mayor and threw him in prison, and took others who also disobeyed him to prison. And Pippin and Merry, it seems like the men who are serving the chief, they're unaware of what's been happening elsewhere in the land, so they are unaware that they are no longer, I guess, the rulers over. And they've lost power, and Merry and Pippin, they use their new power of being messengers of the king to their advantage, and are able to scare some of these soldiers away. Awake the other hobbits, hiding in fear, and bring everyone together to end this. Like, they set traps for the men and surround them, imprisoning most of them. And the men, they come in groups, I guess. Like, one is far away, coming to the defense of the other, and yeah, they're all imprisoned or dead, and it's a battle that will go down in the history books for the hobbits who have reclaimed their power over, and especially with the help of Frodo. And the group, they go to the tower where where the chief is living, and they see that Saruman, who is now powerless, and he still has his voice. He also has warm tongue, and he wants revenge on Frodo, and he went for his weakness, which was the Shire. And Frodo did leave it defenseless, which is something I did like. I think that was an interesting idea. And yeah, Saruman leaves with Warm Tongue, who betrays him by stabbing him, and Warm Tongue is then killed by Arthur's. I'm so sorry if you can hear that. That just started up. And yeah. But yeah, we see how the hobbits rebuild everything in the Shire, and Sam uses Gardry's gift to help the trees grow again after they've been cut down. So yeah, people are happy now. And this lasts, it seems, a couple of years, and Sam does get married to a hobbit named Wallace, and they have a daughter. They were hoping for a son, and Sam literally tells Frodo that if he had a son, he would have named him Frodo, and I was like, oh my word. Well, Frodo, it seems, is dealing with this illness that's related to his injuries. Like, he wears this chain, and it's like, the best way I think is, and I'm trying to find my words, is that it feels like the wing's been cut off him, and it's like, when you've, what is it called, when you've had a limb cut off and you feel like it's still there. I think part Frodo thinks the wing is still there, still controlling him, and the fact he no longer has the wing is affecting him greatly. And he and Sam, they go off to see Bilbo, who, it's his birthday. He's now the oldest hobbit ever. And he gives them this manuscript that he had been writing about their adventures, and asks them to complete it. And when they get to Bilbo, they see others with him, not others from the Fellowship, but the other elves and whatnot. And Frodo says he and Bilbo are actually leaving to the heavens. It's like they were both bearers of the wing. Sam might have temporarily, but the burden was on Frodo and Bilbo. So Yeah, that scene was heartbreaking, and I'm so glad that Mary and Pippin were there, because if Sam had to deal with that alone in the way he was, because he did go back to his house alone with this. Yeah, but the book ends with him just going home to his wife and having lost someone who is very dear to him. Like, I feel bad for Sam, but yeah, overall, I gave this 4 stars. I definitely enjoyed it more than the Two Towers, where I felt with the Two Towers I was reading the middle of a book, this probably is the middle of a book, because I'm not sure if The Lord of the Rings was one very long book that was later split into parts to make it more readable. I mean, probably was this, because my parents do own a very large bind up of The Lord of the Rings. I'm looking at why now in this room, but yeah, this is a bit more manageable, like small editions. But yeah, overall 4 stars, and I think that's all for now. I'm just glad I am glad I did finish a series, so that's good. And I don't think I'll be doing any more reading today. I definitely will be doing some reading tomorrow, and I will update you on what I'm reading tomorrow, just because I've already decided. But yeah, now that's all for now, so I'll see you. And it's the next day, and I did go out today. I went to the shoreline town. Initially, I was gonna go to the beach just to walk by the water, and I wasn't planning to swim at all, just because the water temperature didn't seem to be that warm at all. And honestly, recently, maybe in the past year, I haven't really swum much in the Sound and Long Island Sound. Yeah, but I didn't go to the beach just because the weather wasn't really warm. It was a bit chilly this morning, which pity. But the town the beach is in was hosting this library sale, and I did go, and I did get 2 books. I got Greek Lessons by Hong Kong, and this is translated from the Korean by Deborah Smith and Emily Ye-won. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that name. And this is about, in a classroom in Seoul, a young woman catches her Greek language teacher at the blackboard. She tries to speak but has lost her voice. Her teacher finds himself drawn to the silent woman, while day by day he is losing his sight. Soon the two discover that a deeper pain binds them together. For her, in a space of just a few months, she has lost both her mother and a custody battle for her 9-year-old son. For him, it's the pain of growing up between Korea and Germany, being torn between 2 cultures and languages, and fear of losing his independence. Greek Lessons tells the story of 2 ordinary people brought together at a moment of private anguish. The fading light of a man losing his vision meeting the silence of a woman who has lost her language. Yeah, these are the very things that draw them to each other. Slowly the 2 discover a profound sense of unity. Their voices intersecting with startling beauty as they move from darkness to light, from silence to breath and expression. And I'm intrigued by that. And the other book I got was A Mountain-Leaf Curse by Sarah Penner. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but I've read both of her previous novels, The Lost Apothecary and A London Sion Society, and I was intrigued to see what this is about. And it's about Heaven Ambrose, a trailblazing Noatic archaeologist, has come to the sun-soaked village of Positano to investigate the mysterious shipwrecks along the Amalfi coast. But Heaven is hoping to find more than old artifacts beneath the outer waters. She is secretly on a quest to locate a trove of priceless gemstones her late father spotted on his final dive. Upon Heaven's arrival, strange maelstorms and misfortunes start plaguing the town. Is it nature or something more sinister at work? As Heaven searches for her father's sunken treasure, she begins to unearth a centuries-old tale of ancient sorcery and one woman's quest to save her lover and her village by using the legendary art of Stragera, a magical ability to harness the ocean. Could this magic be behind Postano's latest calamities? Heaven must unravel the Amalfi curse before the region is destroyed forever. And yeah, I'm just very much intrigued by that. And after that, I just went do my grocery shopping and whatnot. And before all that, this morning I did start a new book, and ironically, it is also the final book in a series, and that would be Human Rights by Juno Dawson, and this is the final book in the Her Majesty's Royal Coven. I'm just gonna give the synopsis for the first book, as this is the last and final book. Her Majesty's Royal Coven is about this coven of witches who seem to be working for or part of the government, and this take place in our world. These women are, I guess, a part of our world as well. And a decade prior to the start of the first book, there was a war they fought with warlocks, and after that, it seems like these women, they were childhood best friends. It seems they've distanced or drifted apart. One woman is still part of the coven. She's the high priestess, meaning she's the leader of the Her Majesty's Royal Coven. One has kind of given up on magic to live this normal life. Another started her own coven, and another is using her own magic to really be her own, not her own, but she's using her magic in vet work. I cannot say the word, I'm sorry. But the high priestess, a woman named Helena, she gets word of this prophecy of this soiled child, this child who's supposed to be almost a descendant of Lucifer, who's supposed to bring the end of days. And she finds a child who is not able to control their magic and thinks that it's them, and the one who is a vegetarian, Naomi, she takes on a child to help them control their powers, and yeah, that's the first book. And with this third book, I should admit, I didn't read the summary of the first two books, nor did I reread the first two books, and I read the second book, which was The Shadow Cabinet, about 2 years ago, so I don't fully remember the events of those series. But I would have to say I'm definitely liking this third book, in a sense. And yeah, I'm like, how? When? Anyway, in the books we got introduced to this character named Theo, and at the beginning of this book, she is tricked by someone she thought she knew, who was actually Lucifer in disguise, to bring back someone who was killed earlier in the series, and she does that, and we see how the person isn't handling it well, in the sense they remember their afterlife, they remember the peace of their afterlife, and they were brought back for some reason, and it's put them in a state where they just really don't have the energy to, I guess, exist. They just watch all day in bed, watch reruns of Friends on Netflix, and eventually they kind of realize they've been given, I guess, a second chance, even if it's unwillingly, at life, so might as well take it. And we also see how this person, they feel discombobulated in their own body. Like, they don't feel a connection to their own body. They feel like they've been outside of it for so long that that connection's not there as well. they have a twin sister, and the twin who was responsible for their death switched their souls, and then before this character died, and then switched their souls back to their original bodies when the character was brought back to life. And so that is intriguing. It's not like they were brought back to life and it's like, okay, I will just continue on, like nothing happened. Like, this is something that affected them and has happened to them, and they just don't understand why it was them that was chosen to be brought back. They think it's their what is that goddess that they believe in? Galas? That goddess they believe in, the one they call mother, or a plan of some sort, or it was someone's plan, really. And we also see how revelations from the previous novel have effects on other characters, especially the one who is affected the most, who is manipulated the most by who Lucifer was impersonating. That's all I'm gonna say about that. And we also get news about Leonie that shouldn't be possible due to her relationship status, as well her sexuality. And yeah, I don't know if this is a spoiler, so let's just say she will be going through some changes soon, and it seems like the changes might have not been by choice. It seems like, yeah, someone forced this upon her. I don't. So I'm curious to see what happens with that, and why it was her that's gonna go through this thing. And we also see this memorial for all the witches who have died due to the events of the previous two books, and how other witches want to use Theo as a scapegoat and send her away to Arizona to be isolated from the rest of the witch community. And because what Theo did was forbidden, necromancy is not allowed at all in this world, she will have to stand trial, and because she is a minor, she's 15, 16, Naomi will represent her, which I'm curious to see how that goes in. Yeah, we see how kind of plans starting to come together with an antagonist. It seems like something to do with Helena's daughter, who currently holds, I would say, a grudge against the other witches, and as well is trying to become the most powerful witch, the strongest witch ever. And so I'm curious about that. I'm only 56 pages in, but so far I definitely like the setup of this third and final installment, and yeah, I'm just curious on where it will go. I probably should read a summary of the previous two books, just because I'm not much of a rereader, but we will see. But yeah, I think that's all for now, so I'll see you. So it's the next day, and I did go out today. The town next to mine was hosting this extravaganza, and today they were doing, part of the extravaganza was this craft fair, and where there were stalls for businesses and whatnot. I did try to film a bit, but I don't know, it's so uncomfortable just holding my phone up, because I just don't want to make people uncomfortable, so I just try not to film people, and if they're around. So yeah, I just got quite awkward and quite shy. So. But I did buy something. I bought this, the wing, for $6. I just found it very beautiful, and yeah, and I also just went to a couple grocery stores and whatnot. Like, it's actually quite a nice day for booze. It's quite a bit chilly this morning. Like, I swear, me and my family were just in long sleeves, just kind of just a bit cold in this house, so it did warm up. But yeah, and since I've gone home, I just haven't been feeling well. My stomach's been funny, so yeah. And this morning before I left, I did do a bit of reading of Human Rights by Juno Dawson, and I'm definitely having a lot of fun with this. I'm definitely enjoying this one. This entire series I've enjoyed so far. It's just, I would say, quite an easy read through. I do have to say, I can imagine people getting annoyed because there are pop references that might feel a bit forced or a bit like out of place. I can imagine people feeling, but I don't know, it's just a bit fun too. I feel like I have to give a trigger warning, just because a couple characters do mention suicide, and I will get to that when I discuss my feelings on what's happened so far in this novel. But so far we see Clara is having issues in prison. Somehow Lucifer has bypassed all protections against magic and is trying to get Clara to join him and reunite in Satanist, which is something which is destroyed centuries ago, aeons ago. And it was made up of Lucifer, Bali, and the Fireman, and Clara did help them by destroying the weapon which is could have used to stop them, which is, how was it called? It was like Song of Solomon or something like that. It was the Seal of Solomon. So Clara has to gamble with that. Like, she thought she was safe and Lucifer wouldn't come and touch her if she was in prison. It seems like right now she's alone in that as Naomi. I never know how to say that name. It's like it's Niamh. Her sister. This won't return her messages, won't listen to her request to talk to her, so yeah. And speaking of, we see how Naomi and the other witches, they're looking for Luke, who was someone who Naomi was seeing and who Clara was also seeing when Naomi wasn't around. And Luke in the previous novel was revealed to be a witch hunter, and we see how Naomi is being affected by this because she never told him she was a witch, but she allowed herself to be vulnerable around him, and when she learned the truth about him when she came back, it hurt her. And we see when she came back that she might have unintentionally brought something back alongside with her, as she is dealing with this shadow that only she can see and that is following her around, and it seems like it's becoming more and more solid, so I'm very much intrigued on what that will become. And we see how Leonie she decides to seek a way to deal with what is happening in her body, and she is worried it might be due to what the antagonist might have done to her in a previous novel. She is told that's not the case, as she's told she to not do what she's planning to do and speak with this necromancer who says it's actually related to their god Gala and her child. So it might seem like it is their plan. And she and her girlfriend Chinara have discussed this in the past, actually. And it is something Chinara wants, but Leonie doesn't know if it is what she wants, as she has acknowledged she has lived life quite selfishly, so she's just not sure if she's done living life the way she has. But it seems like she and Chinaro handle this as a team, and I have to say, Leonie didn't want tell Gennaro about this because she was worried about accusations that might have been thrown around when really her girlfriend's like, I have no idea how this happened, and this is like insane, but I believe you. I love you. You're the love of my life. I'm gonna be there for you. We're gonna figure this out together. And I just really like that communication between the two. It's quite good. And we see Theo, who's worried about her trial and what might occur to her. She thinks it would be better for everyone if she was no longer around. And we also see, while she's reading the results of the trial, the outcome, Lucifer comes to talk to her, and it seems like he wants her to join him in becoming his vessel, and she rejects him. And this is where the talk of suicide also came into play. And I'm not going to first time, I mean, because Theo has said that she imagined taking her own life. There's this quote on page 79 that was quite interesting, I guess. Not for the first time she imagined ending her own life. There was a strange comfort in these musings, an illusion of control over her own being. Sometimes late at night, on the precept of sleep, she'd moan on how she'd do it. On a good day, she visualized weeping mourners at her funeral, how much they appreciate her heroic sacrifice. On bad days, she was left with the humbling notion that no one would much care or worse be grateful that she fixed a gardening problem for the Coven. A lot of things have happened to Theo that's been out of her control, and she just wants to find a way to regain some of that control. And there's another character who was talking about suicide, but yeah, I should mention that that's the thing. And I don't know, I kind of can see where she's coming from, because she just feels like a burden to everyone because problems just keep arising, and most of it's not really her fault, I think. But she does learn her judgment, and honestly, it doesn't seem too bad. Like, she has to attend this witch school in Wales when she is done with normal schooling to learn to control her magic better, and she's looking forward to this because it's a dance school and she's able to continue dancing, something that brings her joy. And as well, Naomi will have to be her legal guardian officially. And I mean, they already have been living together, and Theo had thought at one point that she was living with Naomi, but it wasn't that. Yeah. Naomi doesn't believe that Theo deserves a harsher sentence, as she has already gone through so much in her short life already, and I absolutely agree with that. Like, she's had her life upended because of who she is, and it's just been a bit of insane for her, and now life can be a bit more stable, I guess. But I'm curious on seeing if Lucifer actually makes Theo a vessel for him and how he does it. And they do find Luke and want to use him to lure out other witch hunters. He also tries to apologize to Naomi for everything, but it does seem it's too late. And I mean, he did betray her the way he did, and she's kind of going to bring herself to forgive him for lying to him all this time. And he said the longer they were together, the more difficult it was to find a way to explain it. But that's bullshit. Like, you could have just said something. I don't know, that sort of secret to... Yeah, you should have said something quite soon, but I'm curious on what will become of that. And yeah, I think that's all for now. I think that's all for this video, actually. So if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below telling me what you've been up to recently. If you want to, please subscribe to this channel. And if you want to follow me on any social media, all those links are in the down bar below. I'll see you guys next time I post a video. Bye.